Welcome in to another Running with the Wolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Ready for the season to kick back on again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been hard trying to find stuff to watch on TV because I don't know. For me, Survivor's out of season. It doesn't come back till next week. I could watch some college basketball, but it's not necessarily my favorite thing. I like college basketball, but just not as much as the pros. But yeah, it's been hard to find stuff to watch on the old tube. I've been having to resort to a lot of YouTube videos, which, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts later on, make sure to give us a 5-star rating and tell us what you think of the episode. First, let's talk about our little event that we had last Thursday for the Thirsty Pups Wolves watch party. And thank you, first of all, to everyone who came out. Chris, I thought it was a great success.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I haven't been to a watch party like that. And it was cool. Like the guys putting it on had a good vibe, had a good spirit. Like I like that a little, mini basketball shoot thing where you could win prizes. Yeah, I mean the place was cool. Like that where we like heated back patio was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was all for it. I think it was a great thing they put on, and I'm excited to have bigger ones.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking to do some, particularly, we're looking at a Denver game maybe next month. That would be fun. We're also looking to do weekends as well. So make sure to keep on lookout for that. We're also, and nothing completely confirmed yet, but we're also working on talking to some former Wolves as well. So big things coming on the podcast. So let's get into it right now. So I kind of gave my take on a earlier podcast that I posted yesterday. I just had to get it out of my system. I had about a half hour free, so I thought I got to do it. But your take, Mike Conley, 2 years, $21 million. Your thoughts?
I think it's great. I mean, we definitely got a hometown discount. I would feel like he's playing, at least above that level, I would say. But more importantly, we secured a point guard for the next couple of years. I mean, a guy that can at least be serviceable as a starter on a playoff run. I don't know if that solves our problem going forward. Definitely not going forward at point guard, but even for the next couple of years, I think we might have to look to have somebody that's adds a little bit more dimension than he gives us. But I mean, 10 million for a guy like that. I mean, that's a great price for a backup quarterback point guard. So yeah, I'm happy for it, and I think it's another great move by TC Tim Conley, and it shows that if you're winning, veterans are going to want to come and play here for a decent price. So it's possible that we might be surprised in the next offseason at some guys who we might sign for veteran minimum that other teams would be willing to pay, top dollar for.
Yeah, and I heard reports that Mike Conley wants a place where he can end his career. He doesn't really want to go ring chasing, although I would love if he brought a championship here to Minnesota. He doesn't want to do like what Richard Jefferson did at the end of his career, where he goes to a really good team, kind of sits at the end of the bench and wins a championship. I know he's got 2 young kids and a wife. He thought that Minnesota would be a good place to settle down and end his career, and I'm happy for it. I mean, we have now 1 point guard signed for next season, if you don't include Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So we needed to make a move like that, and he could have easily gotten 15 to 16, maybe $17 million a year on the open market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and Monte Morris will have bird rights too, so we'll be able to sign him to go over the cap even more. It's still going to cause a lot of trouble when it comes financially, but you need a roster. It's no point. You're not trying to just cut cut people because to save money. At some point, you still need to fill the roster with talented players. So the money is going to be interesting to see how it works out. But so far, I think it's a great move.
And honestly, I don't think that Mark Laurie and A-Rod mind going into the second tax apron, particularly if they're going to have a hot franchise who have success right away. They're not going to mind paying a little more, in my opinion.
We'll see. Because a little more is going to be about $100 million out of pocket more each season. So that gets a little rough. But yeah, I mean, if they're willing to pay it, I'm all happy for it. Let's keep on going over that cap. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, and so let's move forward to the All-Star game. Now, Ants, particularly in the skills competition, was shooting left-handed. So my question was, do you think that this is going to hurt Ant in any way, particularly like not being asked back to do the slam dunk contest or the skills competition? And more importantly, does it matter? Like, does it matter that Ant's not really taking the skills competition seriously? Or is there a level of professionalism that you expected a little more out of him?
I mean, here's the deal. Like, it's the All-Star break. He's played almost every game. He's played through injury. He's been, leading the team in minutes type player. I'm fine with him taking it easy and having fun with the guys and goofing off a bit. Like, there's two different types of players that seems to be at All-Star games. The guys that are trying to put up big numbers for like some sort of career thing or like winning, All-Star MVP. Then there's guys that are just, honored that they're there and they want to hang out and, have fun. And I'm fine with either one. Whatever you decide is your move is fine. To be honest, every single sports all-star game is a complete joke and it's dumb. So I'd be fine with if they didn't even play the game and they just announce who is the all-stars and let them all have a break. Like I'm fine with truthfully the whole all-star weekend being gone. It means literally next to nothing to me.
I'm going to disagree with you there because I actually really like the All-Star weekend. I really like particularly the kind of the old rookie game or the rising stars, I guess they call it. I think that's unique. I also now you could say how good this year's was,
I like
but
that.
I also like the slam dunk contest as well. Because guess what? The slam dunk contest isn't going to be good every year. But if you don't do it every year, you're going to miss out on the gems like Zach LaVine or Max McClung or fill in dunker here, Vince Carter, because there's going to be bad ones, but you have to go through the bad ones to get to the good ones. I like All-Star Weekend. I'm one of the suckers that enjoys the
Yeah,
All-Star game in general. What I like about it is kind of the immaculate shot making. Like I just imagine these guys at like my local gym or YMCA pulling up from mid-court and knocking down threes. I think it really just shows how good of scorers and shot makers they actually are.
and I'm fine if that's what the All-Star game turns into is almost more goofiness. Like
Sure.
everyone's like, "Oh, it's not serious. They're not D'ing up." And it's like, "Yeah, it's not a real game." Like
Right.
that's going to happen. So I mean, if they're talking about like how to make it more watched and more valuable, like adding money incentive to it or whatever. I mean, the idea of the All-Star game, and I heard a talking head say this, and I agree 100%. When I was young, the All-Star game was, oh, I've never seen Charles Barkley. I've never got to see him. It'd be fun to watch him. Or I've never seen, Shaq really play like, oh, it's cool. I get to see Shaq or Yao Ming or whoever wasn't in your market that was someone you're excited to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that anymore. You can go on YouTube and you can watch highlights from every single game. You can watch everybody play. Like it's not like you don't see, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. There's no way you can possibly see him until the All-Star game. So I'm fine with them making it a goofy thing, but make it earlier in the day, like so that kids can watch it. It was super late. And I don't know. Like I'm sure there's people that like it, but like I just don't see the point. And
Well,
the
I
dunk
will tell you
contest
someone.
care even less about. Like I hate what I hated about the dunk contest is that it becomes like the judges like cheering and making like a big scene, even if the dunk wasn't that good. It's more like a machine. Like when they started wearing costumes and bringing out props and stuff, it's like, what are we doing here? Like it bothered me. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see where it goes forward. Adam Silver will figure something out.
Yeah, I'm going to take it the other way on that because like I said, I really like the NBA All Star Weekend. But what I like about the dunk contest is it can make someone who would have no chance of being a star for like a weekend. Like for example, the Max McClung. Would anyone be talking about Max McClung if he didn't win the slam dunk contest 2 years in a row? No, they wouldn't. Would anyone really care about Nate Robinson or Gerald Green if it wasn't for the dunk contest? Not really. So I don't know. I just think it shines a light on players who they have a special skill. Like, for example, what shine is Jacob Toppin going to get if he's not in the All-Star game? Probably none. So I don't know. I think it shines a light on players who don't usually get the light shined on them.
Yeah, it's not bad. I guess my only follow up would be: is anyone talking about Mac McClung? Is anybody talking about that Toppin kid? No.
Well, maybe not Jacob. I think they're talking about Mac McClung, though, as a two-time dunk champion, or at least they were. There was some buzz around All-Star Weekend. So let's move forward from that. Of course, congratulations to Kat, who had 50 points. It seems a lot less when we've seen him put up 60 twice in his career in actual games. By the way, the Wolves are 1-1 in those games. He broke the record for most points in a half with 40 and most points in a quarter with 31. So congratulations to Karl Anthony Towns. He seems like the kind of guy who would care about that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's great that he did that. I think that him being like third or tied for fourth all-time NBA All-Star game scoring, I think is a huge feather in his cap that is very important to him. Um, I mean, he could have even pushed that higher. He had like a blown dunk that could have, he could have got up to second all time. But yeah, there's certain players that I think that sort of thing is important to so that they can kind of gauge their importance in the league. So I'm happy for him, and I'm glad it worked out for him.
Yeah. Congratulations to Cats. Honestly, looking at that defense, I could have probably went out and put up at least 10 points. I don't want to go more than that, but I could have probably put up 10, particularly in the early quarters. I got a sweet turnaround jumper. That's all I'm saying.
I believe it.
So let's move forward here. Let's talk about the closing stretch. We got 27 games left, and the good news for the Timberwolves is, well, there's a bunch of good news. One is 17 out of the 27 remaining games are at home. That's a good thing. The Wolves only have 3 back-to-backs left. And I want to quiz you right now. Do you know, since 2019, 5 years ago, which is crazy to think that's 5 years ago, name the one team. There's one team in the East and West who were number 1 seed going into the All-Star break and was not number 1 seed at the end of the year. Can you name that team?
There's one in the East and one in the West that this has
No,
happened
no.
to.
Here, I'll give
I
you.
would say Philly,
There's
maybe,
no. There's only
and
one team in total. Can you hear me? Hello.
I'm back now. Yep.
Okay.
What's a dude? What's I have no idea. Who is it?
Uh, the only team in East and West to ever since 2019 to be number one going into the All-Star break and not be number one at the end of the season is the 2022 Chicago Bulls, who only won 7 games after the All-Star break and finished with the 6th seed. Other than that, I'll run through all of them. East 2023, Milwaukee, they stayed at the number 1 seed. West 2023, Denver stayed at the number 1 seed. East 2022, Chicago fell to 6th, only won 7 more games. West 2022, Phoenix stayed at number 1. Went to the NBA Finals. 2021, West Utah stayed number 1. East Philly stayed number 1. 2020, East Milwaukee stayed 1. West Lakers stayed 1, won the NBA championship. 2019, West Golden State stayed at number 1. East Milwaukee stayed at number 1. So my question is, where do you think the Wolves finish in the Western Conference here? Will they continue the trend other than Chicago and be a number 1 seed when it all comes down to it? Also, does that matter? Or will they be more of a Chicago who falls down a little bit? What do you think?
I bet, but I think I would say third. I bet you they'll be third. I don't see. I mean, I say OKC is touch and go. Like, I think we'll be in the hunt, maybe a game out, maybe or two or whatever. Like, we'll be right there. But I mean, anywhere from fourth to first is, a crapshoot right now. So, yeah, I don't. Sure, you know what? Let me change my vote. Let's be with number 1 the whole time. Why not?
And do you think that it'll matter a 1 seed versus like a 3 seed? I will say in the first round, but overall, do you think it'll matter that much or no?
I mean, until I see what the seedings are, I mean, I think it matters a lot in the NBA, just matchups wise. So, like, if we get a team that's a bad matchup, it'll matter, but it all depends on who the lower seeds are, really, for me.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think will be some of the keys for the Wolves to keep the number 1 overall seed, or I'll say a top 4 seed? Because after this great start, you don't want to start the NBA playoffs on the road. Because that's my goal: be a top 4 seed and clinch a top 4 seed with about 5 games left, so we can rest some people. That's my goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going to come down to is we're going to need somebody to step up as a quality role player. I think we've got and I'm including like the players that I'm confident in are Anthony Edwards, Carl Anthony Towns, or Naz Reid. I'm confident in them as being consistent contributors. Other than that, and Nikhil Alexander Walker, I'm confident in all 5 of them as being constant contributors that will be there every game. We need somebody else, if that's McDaniels, to give us something every game consistently and positive. If it's a guy off the bench, if it's Morris that we just brought in, if it's maybe a different Morris that we might bring in, who knows? Like, we're going to need somebody to give us consistent, solid production come playoff time, so our rotation can be shrunk down and be quality in every spot.
Yeah, I would agree. We need some more consistency. We've been saying it the whole time out of Jaden McDaniels. We need a lot more out of Kyle Anderson as well. Just that cog off the bench. If we're going to play him that many minutes, he's got to contribute, and he did a lot in that Milwaukee game. I know we were close to getting rid of him, but I guess Tim Conley saw it a different way. So I will definitely trust him, but man, I was looking for some shooting like a Bogdan Bogdanovic or or Doug McDermott or something to that caliber. I would have really liked some shooting at the deadline.
I agree. I just think that the trades weren't there. I think that his market was so small and nobody really was interested in Kyle Anderson. And if that happens, you kind of can't force anything to go.
Right, for sure. So let's take a look at what the Wolves have going forward. Next game is against the Milwaukee. I almost said the Brewers. That would have been a slip up. The Milwaukee Bucks, who are 3-7 over 3-7 since Doc Rivers took over. Is Doc Rivers the worst All-Star coach in NBA history?
Yes.
It has to be. He's won 3 games. Like there's no other
terrible.
option for that. But maybe
Although
maybe
they
actually
got the W, so maybe not.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Fire Finch, his defensive scheme was terrible in that game.
Exactly.
I mean, he should have been full court pressing. I mean, with the talent he had, he should have had Shea full court pressing, like the Arkansas. What was it? 40 minutes of hell. That's what should have been going down at that All-Star game. They should have been killing him. But I guess Finch will have to. Finch will have to do it again next year and have a better game plan for that. So we got Milwaukee, then a back-to-back against the Brooklyn Nets. No telling who's going to be there. If Middleton's going to be back, you would assume that he would. We missed him last time. Ben Simmons is always a question mark. I would doubt he plays, but who knows? What are you looking to in that back-to-back scenario? I honestly think that if the Wolves beat Milwaukee, I would sit Conley against Brooklyn. I really would.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to get to that time where we're going to have to start, making sure that we're healthy for the playoff run. Milwaukee will be a fun game because they're under fire right now. Everybody is kind of throwing them under the bus. Talk about, is Giannis going to want out? Is Dame the problem? Is Doc Rivers garbage? So, I mean, they're going to have some motivation coming out of the All-Star break. We'll see if motivation alone can get you a W versus the Timberwolves. But, we should be at the point now where we need to be winning, almost all these games. Like we're pushing for this number 1 seed if that's our plan. And we should be able to beat the Nets, both of them, like even with the depleted roster on our side, if we rest some people. Like we're a better team and we need to prove it. So be professional, get it done.
Yeah, particularly at home. The good news is the next 4 games, although the Wolves did go in the All-Star break with 4 straight road wins, I'm looking at it right now. The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game homestand. And some of these teams, some of them are good, like the Kings and Clippers, but some of these teams, the Trailblazers, the Grizzlies, who are probably the most hurt team in the NBA, one of the most hurt teams I have ever seen. The Spurs, who I know Wembanyama's been playing better, but you got to get that W. The Bucks, Kings, and then, of course, the Trailblazers, who, I mean, we just saw how that went on the road. So you got to expect at least out of these 7s, get at least 5 here. And like maybe a loss against maybe the Bucks and or Kings and Clippers, but you got to imagine that you got to have a good homestand coming out of the All-Star break. Everyone should be well rested. Everyone should be good to go. Although I will say it's a weird schedule. 2 back-to-backs. Like for example, Friday night to Saturday's a back-to-back, and then Tuesday to Wednesday's a back-to-back. But it's the NBA. No excuses. Got to get it done.
Yeah, and you're at home. I mean, we should be 5-2 in those 7 games and keep it moving.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put a pin in it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
So I missed that if you asked me something.
Oh, no. I just said I'm going to put a pin in it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks. Go Wolves, man. Let's keep on winning and start a new win streak.
Absolutely. And this is the Running with the Wolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And please give us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you think we deserve on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts. And tell us what you think of the show as well. And as always, go Wolves.